Hey everybody, this is Sophia Florence, one of the hosts of the Crumbling podcast, and I'm here to tell you that we have new tiers on Patreon. And I know what you're thinking. Do I want to pay more for this podcast? Hell yeah, because you're going to get some cool shit with it. Our early supporter tier is now one of the new ones. Obviously, we have the old Help Us Grow one, which is just $3 a month. That gives you access to our episodes early and gives you access to our special episodes called Crumbs. The early supporter tier, which is $6 a month, gives you early access to the episodes like the other one, gives you some exclusive behind-the-scenes content. So there will be clips, bloopers, more other things that we'll be adding to the Patreon. A physical sticker pack, which is fun and themed designs produced by our illustrator, Chris Terendi. Patreon-only updates and polls that'll help shape our future content. So that'll be really exciting if you want to kind of be more of an active participant in what we're doing here. And it's, just kind of a perfect thing for fans who want a sneak peek and exclusive goodies. There's some really fucking cool designs. I can't wait till y'all see them. If you want to go a little bit more than that, we have the super fan tier that is $20 a month. That gives you early access to all the episodes. It gives you those behind the scenes episodes and extras. It'll give you access to something that the other ones don't have, which is a limited edition t-shirt. We've got one right now. It's super cool. I am not even going to show it to you guys. Probably have more designs over the years. If you want the shirt, come get it. It's $20 a month for that. Ideal for anyone who loves merch. They want to, tell people about our podcast and they don't want to actually talk about it. Some of us are introverts. You don't want to talk about shit. You just want to be a billboard, and I'm cool with that. And also, it's the same art that's on the stickers. It is super rad, and 40% of the tier's proceeds go directly to supporting our illustrator's work. That is Chris Terendi. He's at Chris Tyrendi, Tirendi art.com. ChrisTyrendiart.com. Give it a look. I hope that some of you will join, and I hope that you will take part in some polls and tell us what you want. We want to make the content that you want within the confines of the stuff that we like to do. Please go to our Patreon, patreon.com/The Crumbling Podcast, and join today. Welcome to The Crumbling Podcast, a podcast about how our sense of reality is crumbling and what the hell we can do about it. I'm your host, Sophia Florence, and I'm here with my co-hosts,
Gavin.
And V.
And we are still here with Heath Druzin. Heath is a wonderful journalist who's been reporting for over 20 years. He's got a podcast called Howl about 30 years of wolf-free introduction to the West, which you should check out, but I don't think we'll talk much about wolves in these episodes. Maybe we'll talk about wolves. I don't know.
This is like a correlation that I've seen. I think it's interesting. People who are involved with reading about a lot of right-wing extremism end up being really obsessed with or writing about wild animals. Like Laura Jadine did a thing about
coyotes, yeah.
Coyotes, that's it. Wolves, I happen to know Professor Jen Goldbeck. She's the founder of the Golden Ratio Group. Shout out to the GR Ratio friends. I know some of them listen to this.
Heath has also done a lot of work around the right-wing militia movements in the U.S., including as the creator and host of the podcast series Extremely American in partnership with Boise State Public Radio. Going back to militias, that was the topic of the last episode. We're talking about how the libertarian movement informed militias at large, but also we got a lot of other questions. So in this episode, we'll be interviewing Heath Druzin. How the hell are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for the extremely kind intro again. I appreciate it.
Of course.
So I get to ask this fun question I'm sure you've answered plenty of times. I'm new to you. Literally, we just met like an hour ago. So can you just give a super brief history of your career? How did you get here?
I'm very much an itinerant journalist who's kind of been bouncing around for 20 years. Yeah, I just kind of started in daily newspapers as kind of cub reporter, worked in Louisiana, worked in Idaho, California. But I actually covered Iraq and Afghanistan for Stars and Stripes, which is a poorly understood newspaper that covers the armed forces. But that I guess that was a real defining moment in my career. So I spent 6+ years between Iraq and Afghanistan covering those wars, then covered veterans issues for a while, and then actually made the switch to radio and audio to do a project called Guns and America, which was a collaboration between 10 NPR affiliates looking at the role of guns in American life. So I started that in 2018, and one of my focus areas was on extremist movements. And I've lived a lot of places, but the place I've lived the most my adult life is Idaho, and that's definitely ground zero for a lot of extremist movements. So I got really interested in that. And that job kind of spun off into Extremely American, January 6th happened while I was reporting the militia thing. And that kind of made it take off. Now it's kind of taken over my life. So yeah, here we are, 2025. It's certainly extremism is not less relevant. I don't know. There's probably a proverb out there about like, be careful, don't wish for your work to be too relevant.
Monkey's paw curls, like you'd rather not be relevant.
Yes,
Yeah.
sometimes that is very true.
So was there something that you found emotionally compelling that brought you into that kind of research?
I've always been sort of interested in what brings people to extremes, like what motivates people, what like convinces them to do stuff like that. Covering war, I mean, I was out with US troops, but I regularly talk to the Taliban. They're extremists.
Wow.
They're religious extremists, right? And in a very hardcore way, like willing to go to the mountains and fight for 20 years for it. Now, I'm not saying that the guys we're talking about are Taliban, but I'm not saying that there's no similarities, right? If you train to fight the government at some point, then there's something in you that's switched on where you're willing to take some risks to go to bat for your ideology. So that always interested me. I guess I've been drawn to what makes people in these movements tick for a long time. And then being in Idaho, a place by the way that I really love, like it's my home, and sometimes I have conflicted feelings about things that are happening there, but it's a great place. But it's also a place where it's a sort of laboratory for extremism. So I saw a lot of trends before I think a lot of other people in the country saw them, because I saw it happening in the mountains, in the woods, and then in the state house there as it became more mainstream. So I think that was a big thing that really got me to focus more on it, was just because I happened to be living in a place where I was watching it happen in real time.
Wow. Just a follow up. What were the folks in the Taliban like? Were those some folks that you were able to find relatable at some point? Was there an ability to talk to them in like a very, I don't know, like you talk to somebody at a bar. Obviously, these guys, conservative Muslims probably aren't going to the bar, but like, I don't want to say friendly, but like familiar kind of conversation or.
Not particularly, but we did have professional conversations, and they would, explain their point of view. And would I say they were relatable? Not particularly. I've talked to other terrorists who were more relatable, I guess. I talked to some Kurdish terrorists in Iraq who were fighting Iran. They were like, we hate Iran, you hate Iran. Not me personally, but they're like, America hates Iran, we hate Iran. What's the problem? America had labeled them terrorists, which they were. Anyway, but the Taliban less so, because they are pretty extreme and their views on women are so dim, and it's a little hard to find common ground.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have a lot of interest in the Kurdish independence movement, and actually had known a couple people that went off to fight with the IRPGF and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure that those people were relatable, and maybe that's partially because there was a lot of American interaction there over the years, but we have fucked them over. You get why they ended up where they did.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's a very complicated history with a lot of American heartbreak there for the Kurds, no doubt.
This series has been on the history of right libertarian ideology and its ripple effects on modern politics. What would you say about the connection between that and militia groups?
Well, I mean, I do want to be a little careful with that, because I'm certainly not saying Reason Magazine wants to overthrow the government violently.
Right.
Like, there are a lot of libertarians who are not in militias, and maybe they think militias should have a right to exist, but they wouldn't necessarily agree with Stuart Rhodes. I think that wing has been sidelined in today's politics quite a bit, but they're out there. There's plenty of libertarians who are looking at what's happening right now with up armored vehicles and troops walking the streets of DC and going, no, we do not support this. Again, they're not in positions of power, because that's not kind of what's happened with the Republican Party. But certainly when you're talking about Ron Paul and the Tea Party, even though Ron Paul has certainly broken with Trump on a lot of things, that movement, definitely there's a through line from there to what's happening now. I think that movement really hardened some anti-government feelings. And I think it also brought people in who maybe didn't have extreme anti-government feelings and kind of gave them an avenue to radicalize. There's no doubt, as a reporter in Idaho back in 2008, I saw the Ron Paul movement really start to change the state party there. And that was just the leading edge of this national change where they challenged a lot of orthodoxies within the Republican Party, and it resonated with a lot of people. You know, fuck the government can be a very alluring message. And let's be honest, the government does a lot of bad things, right? I mean, we've seen it. We've seen the government do bad things under both parties. We've seen things like the Iraq War. We've seen a disaster in Afghanistan. We've seen abuses. And so when you've got somebody saying that, you know, calling that out, that can be really alluring. And then sometimes I think that that's sanded over some of the harder edges, and people have either ignored or maybe not known about some of the other stuff. You know, you mentioned some of the racism in Ron Paul's newsletters. There's been some unsavory elements in the militia movement, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I like that you gave that caveat there. I mean, one of the things that we've been trying to focus on and narrow down on in like the last interview series is that libertarians are normal people. And you have guys like Nick Gillespie from Reason Magazine, like you mentioned, that are appalled by stuff that's going on now. They didn't really fall through the libertarian to fascist pipeline or anything like that. They didn't become more extreme. I think one of the things that we found is there's like a distinction between kind of mainline libertarians and like paleo libertarians, as they were coined by Rothbard. And you've got guys that were in that movement like Pat Buchanan, who I think is kind of a predecessor to Trump in a lot of ways. But it's nice to have that line drawn. And even the ones who do believe the craziest shit you've ever heard, the people that like believe that the U.S. military should be stomping through D.C. right now, those are normal people. One of the things we always want to focus on is humanizing people deeply. We did a series on dehumanization a while ago. It's sort of a core ethos of the podcast that we want to humanize people. I think a lot of people on the left may reflexively dehumanize, and not to say that I don't understand why, you know, some of us end up there, but it doesn't quite work out well.
Yeah, I mean, look, my whole thing right now is helping people understand these movements, right? I'm not out to dehumanize anyone. I'm also not out to whitewash any of these movements. You'll notice in my podcast that you'll hear a lot from militia members. You'll hear a lot from Christian nationalists. I sit down with them, sometimes for hours, and talk to them. And I've got some criticism from the left for letting them talk too much, which is fine. But, you know, the reason I have these folks talking so much is so that listeners can understand them. I'm out there to understand them, and because I think that they're important. And I would say recent events have shown, you know, the latest season is Christian nationalism, that in fact, they do matter, and we do need to understand them, because this is not a drill. They're in DC. They're making policy. They're influencing policy. Pete Hegseth is a Christian nationalist who's running the Defense Department. Yes, I think it's really important to understand people and not just sort of reflexively be like, well, who cares? Fuck them. I don't agree with them. You don't have to agree with them by any stretch, but you should understand them.
You literally just have to listen to them and find out what the hell they believe.
Yeah. They told me what they want to do, and now they're doing it. So
exactly. I have conversations in my daily life where people are just like, no, they can't do that. No, they can't do that. They don't believe in that, do they? That's insane. Like, and then it's just like, I've listened to these people for years. I believe them when they say that they're doing the thing and they're going to do the thing. Yeah.
I think that's the funniest thing about some people who grease the wheels with inaction for how we've got to where we are. Everyone needs one crazy friend. Let me not use crazy in a derogatory way, but people who are just out there with opinions. It is not good.
At the same time, like, they're also just regular people. I feel like the whole like rule 42 of the internet or whatever should also apply for any belief that someone could have. You will find someone out there that has it, and it will be much more common than you expect.
What's the deal with Idaho and fascists? Like, what is the history there? Why do these movements grow there? I have a guess, but you're the expert.
So I'm not painting everyone I talk to as a fascist, but Idaho does have a history with fascism. Most famously, infamously, I should say, the Aryan Nation set up a compound in North Idaho in the 80s. They were there in all the way up to 2000 when they were bankrupted in a lawsuit. These guys were hardcore neo-Nazis. They made no bones about it. You can call them fascists because they said they were fascists and they were proud of it. And there's been several iterations of neo-Nazi groups, terror groups even, that have set up shop in that area. There's a really pretty simple reason why those guys set up shop there. It's a very white part of the country. It's a part of the country that's sparsely populated where you can hang out in the woods and be left alone. So that last part I talked about, I think that's a big reason why extremist groups are drawn to Idaho and the broader sort of inland Pacific Northwest. There's long been a sort of anti-government attitude out there and an independent streak where people just kind of want to go be left alone. And that's not to say that most people agree with extreme ideologies, because they don't. But they also think that people should be able to generally kind of do what they want to do as long as they're not directly harming others out there. So if you want to go create an armed group out in the woods and not have any problems, Idaho's not the worst place to do it. I think that's part of it. There's one more important part of what's happening now, especially with Christian nationalists. Idaho is a place with a small population. We're just hitting 2 million. It's a place they think they can win, especially Christian nationalists right now. They're not in it just to make a principled point. They want to win and they want to change the country. They're having a moment right now and starting to do it. And they see a place like Idaho as somewhere where they can have influence. They can get their policies enacted more easily than on a national stage. And they target local elections, they target state elections. They see it as a place where they can actually see a change.
So what's forgetting it? It begins with an R. There's a movement there. It's not the freedom movement. What is it?
Oh, the American Redoubt?
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, the American Redoubt.
So what is that? Everybody wants to go there and become like a thing. It's a thing. I know that.
It's part and parcel with the militia movement. It's not exactly the same thing, but they're all kind of aligned. The American Redoubt is an idea started by this guy named James Wesley Rawls. And it's to create this sort of like fortress against a tyrannical government. And they see Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, and parts of Eastern Oregon and Washington as a place where they can create this sort of far-right Christian society where there's sort of an extreme view of gun rights, like unlimited gun rights, and that they can basically create their own. I called it the 51st state in season 1 of Extremely American, where they can kind of create their own little homeland. A lot of these guys are just sort of anti-government, but it's also attracted racist activists who also see it as an ethno-state. The American Redoubt is that, a far-right Christian homeland.
There's a radio network too, I think, involved with it. Also, I might be wrong.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I don't think it's on terrestrial radio. I think it's just online. But yeah, Radio Free Redoubt.
Yep.
And they have elected officials on. There's a lot of mainstreaming of that. You don't find these movements setting up shop in the middle of Chicago, and there's a reason for that. It's just a lot more in the ethos to be in a place where you can be left alone.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I have a two-part question here. I grew up as an evangelical, so like a lot of my background knowledge on this kind of stuff came from growing up, and not necessarily white nationalism. Like I don't want to say that like that part of my family that's evangelical is like anti-racist by any means, but like they're not particularly racially motivated people. And one, I love that you've been covering Christian nationalism, but we talked about like the word fascism. And I know like to some extent, I think that it may be broadly over applied. So with regards to Christian nationalists, what are your thoughts there? And I don't know that like the word fascism has like a perfect definition. Like, you know, you've got Umberto Eco's, whatever, but it's, you know, kind of an anomalous term. Like, but do you feel like the Christian nationalists relate to that idea, or are they
I think a lot of them would reject the label, but when you get into their ideology, it's not fascism. It's a theocracy, and they'll tell you that. And it is a theocracy where even though they talk big about freedom of speech, there is not freedom of speech because there'd be blasphemy laws. And everything I'm talking about now, I talk to a ton of leaders and sort of foot soldiers in the movement. And these are ideas of broad agreement. You'd be stripping women of the right to vote. Pretty much everybody I talked to agreed with that. So that's not a flowering democracy. Non-Christians, and to include Mormons and Catholics who they don't consider Christians, they wouldn't be able to hold office. So basically just a narrow set of Calvinists and Baptists. Christians would be able to hold political office. So when you just start ticking off all of the Christian nationalist utopian ideals, if they got their way, it certainly doesn't look like American democracy. It doesn't look constitutional. It's not constitutional. You would have to change the Constitution to the point where it wouldn't mean anything anymore. So they don't like democracy. And they'll tell you that. They'll tell you they want less democracy, but they want a lot less democracy. I mean, just taking away women's right to vote, right there. That's half the country, boom, disenfranchised. It's a stark view of how things should be run. Everything should be run explicitly according to their version, their interpretation of the Bible. It's not the America we know. It's a version of America that never existed, and certainly not that is envisioned in the Constitution, flawed as it may be.
The thing that I found it interesting that you focused in on was like sort of like a set of Baptists and Calvinists growing up evangelical. You're sort of kind of in that milieu somewhere. But like for those Christian nationalist groups, I know that there are a lot of what they call like tradcasts, traditional Catholics,
Yes.
like especially like the Sedevacantist types that are sort of in agreement with them. But is there like a pretty big schism there where, the tradcasts maybe like the Christian nationalists more than the Christian nationalists like the tradcasts?
That's exactly right. There's a huge schism. I'm glad you pointed that out. I was describing sort of one major sect of the movement, but the tradcasts, that's a whole separate Christian nationalist movement. And they have been much more dabbling, and sometimes more than dabbling, in white supremacism. There's some like serious neo-Nazi elements in that. And when we say traditional Catholics, to be clear, this is a breakaway movement that's not aligned with the mainline Catholic Church, and in most cases actually rejects the Pope and are rejected by the Vatican. We're getting a little into the weeds, but yeah, there's some real anti-Semitism, some real white supremacism, that undercurrents in that wing of Christian nationalism. Much more so, I would say, than the bigger movement right now, which was that sort of Calvinist Baptist movement. Not that they don't have their own problems. Certainly there's like a little civil war going on there with Holocaust denial at the moment. And there's some real prominent figures who are just asking the questions, as they say, about World War II.
Jacking off. Yeah, that's the word for it.
Yeah, it's
just asking
Yes,
questions.
called jacking off.
J-A-Q-I-N-G.
Yeah. Yep.
I
know.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, it's not me. No. I took this from I don't know where that came from. Somewhere I've seen it on the internet much. So I blame being too online. My brain is rotted.
Yeah, well, who among us?
I have like a billion questions actually, but it's not even like on this list. So I'm going to have to start writing them down. About the tradcat stuff, like how much of like with Idaho, is it like one of those things that's like how Oregon actually had white supremacy codified in their constitution? Is there anything like that in the Idaho constitution or anything like that in the history of Idaho?
Oh, I mean, I'm not an expert in the Idaho Constitution. I would be shocked if there wasn't some stuff in the past that was unsavory, but no, that's not where this is stemming from.
Okay, interesting. I just wanted to know. I was curious. And like, do the trad cats, like, do you have a large trad cat population out there? Because I know that also the West is Mormon country, and
some of it, yeah. So southern Idaho and then much more eastern Idaho is very Mormon.
Okay.
The tradcasts I wouldn't say that's a huge part of the population at all, but a lot of them have gravitated to North Idaho. And these are real extremist traditional Catholics who hold some anti-Semitic and racist views. And they've come there for the same reasons I talked to, where they see it as a place where it's very white and that they can maybe get their way in politics. And some of them have inserted themselves in mainstream Republican politics up north. And there's a whole schism going on in the Republican Party up there, where some of them are like, what are we doing with these people? These are Nazis. And others are like, quit being so woke. So it's not a huge population, but they're loud.
Oh yeah, fascinating. I have a friend in Idaho, and she's very interesting to listen to on how she perceives things going on around her. It's like, what on earth? And also, I remember listening to Lisa Tilley's podcast, Bundyville, and Bundyville, the Remnant with like Marblehead Church, like very close to the border and everything like that. That like I know that Alberta, Canada has a few problems. There's a few problems. I'm sorry, Canadians. I love you all. I have family there. But yeah, there are problems in like Alberta. I don't know. I'm just bringing it up. Marblehead Church scares me. That's one I don't understand. Like, I think that's like the Nazi Jesus kind of whatever it is.
There's some real extremism in Canada. Yeah, yeah. And I definitely encourage people to listen to both seasons of Bundyville. Great stuff. She's a great reporter. That gets into a whole, like, I talked to Ammon Bundy in my podcast, but that gets much deeper into all of that and a whole sort of different aspect of what I cover. So yeah, it's really good.
I think the one that I really want to know is, what troubles you most about the current moment in history?
I think right now, look, there's people who want to disenfranchise every woman in America who have the ear of some of the most powerful people in the world. That should get people's attention. What also worries me is that it's hard to keep your attention on one thing right now because there's just so much shit being thrown at the wall that like it's a new thing every day. And I think it can really numb you. Understandably, I do worry that we might be sleepwalking into a point of no return. There's a lot of people out there who don't believe in democracy, and I talk to a lot of them, and they're having a moment right now, and it's pretty hard to unwind the clock on that once it starts getting dismantled.
Damn, that last one hit me. That's been the big concern for me too, is as somebody who works in a science field, watching a lot of the, research funding unravel. I wonder how we'll ever get scientists to come back to like government research positions and stuff, knowing that it's precarious employment at that point. I don't know if we'll have government research positions in the future, but I would worry that if we got back to the point where we're rebuilding those infrastructure, that people would be a little bit afraid that it would fall apart. One question I really wanted to get to actually was about Ammon Bundy. So Ammon Bundy is a pretty big figure in the trajectory of the militia movement in the US. And so what could you tell us about him and his relationship to how the militia movement grew?
Yeah, Ammon is interesting because he's never been in a militia, but he's kind of a spiritual leader of the movement. He's been on the lam from the government for quite a while, although hiding in plain sight in Utah. But Ammon inspired a lot of militia members through his family's initial armed standoff with the federal government in 2014 in a place called Bunkerville, Nevada. His dad, Cliven Bundy, hadn't paid his grazing fees for his cattle operation in decades, and the federal government came to take his cows, and a bunch of guys with guns from all over the country came to not allow them to take the cows. And the guys with guns won, and that really inspired a lot of people. And then Ammon even did a sequel where he took over a Oregon wildlife refuge and had an armed standoff there. Yeah, Ammon's interesting. He is not a member of a militia, but he is a very key figure in the militia movement. He's pissed off a lot of people.
Wait, what? He's not? Oh, that's fascinating. Huh.
Yeah, he doesn't even walk around with a piece very often, but
wow.
So he's kind of an unusual figure. He's pissed off a lot of people recently in that movement. He's lost a lot of his influence. He also has a multi-million-dollar judgment against him right now, which he's basically on the lam from. But his history is extremely important to the movement. There's no question about that.
What did he do to piss off other folks in that movement?
Well, I mean, people went to jail, and one person in particular literally got killed supporting Ammon Bundy and his movement. And some of those people who paid the price, which Ammon didn't, say that as soon as they went to jail, as soon as their family member got killed, some of them say that Ammon was not there for them anymore.
All right. Wow. Yeah. So one more question for me, and then I'll give one more to Devin and one more to V. The thing that I'm most curious about is reading about, Stuart Rhodes' history, being radicalized by the government overreach after 9/11, and then seeing him, do that heel turn. Do you have a sense of what that process was like, going from not wanting the government to enact martial law to explicitly wanting the government to enact martial law? I'm just hoping that there's some other answer than just Trumpism, like there's some other thing.
I don't know. I'm not in Stuart Rhodes' head. I did talk to his former spokesman who turned against him, a guy named Jason Van Tattenhove. And he knew him very well because not only was he an Oath Keeper spokesperson, but he was also Stuart's roommate / landlord. He says that Rhodes kind of got enamored with his own fame and grift. And he says that he basically was sort of trying to make money off it and didn't want to go against some of the more extreme elements. He says, again, this is one man's opinion, that Stuart Rhodes sort of sold out his ideals when he started to get famous. But I don't know. I mean, Stewart seemed pretty committed to Trumpism. I mean, he went to prison for it. It's hard to say he wasn't idealistic at all. Yeah, I don't know what changed him. I mean, I think a lot of these guys in the militia movement had an ideology, and then a guy that they liked came to office and stomped all over it. And they had a decision to make. Do we support the guy we like, or do we support our ideals? And I don't know. Right now, I'm hearing crickets from them with the military in the streets of the Capitol and mass agents grabbing people off the streets. These are the things they warned us about, and they're not saying a lot about it right now.
Yeah, that's been driving me nuts lately. It's the thing that I've been thinking about the most as we've been getting to this. Having known about these guys back when they started, kind of seeing them fall to that, I don't know, couldn't wrap my head around it. I can, in a way, cults of personality happen constantly, but I'm also like, how the hell? But yeah.
I think the one I want to ask is, we recently got to listen to an episode that you did on Kyle Rittenhouse, the teenager who shot a number of protesters in Kenosha, Wisconsin. What are your thoughts on his case? Like, do you feel like what happened to him could have been prevented somehow?
Yeah, so I was in Kenosha for the trial, actually. That's how I did that bonus episode. Could it have been prevented? I mean, sure. Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, I'm sure there's a lot of second guessing on all sides. Look, clearly Kyle Rittenhouse was not trained, right? Like, he was a very young adult going out with a semi-automatic weapon in the middle of a chaotic and extremely emotional scene out there. As far as what happened in the courtroom where he was acquitted of murder, it was a weird case. Like, the judge was this guy who, he was a bit of a showman and like had a reputation for that. And you could kind of see it in the trial. And he's this kind of larger than life character. He definitely made some controversial decisions about what the jury could and couldn't consider. How could it have turned out differently? I don't know. I mean, a lot of like, certainly the criticism of Kyle Rittenhouse was like, why are you showing up with a gun to this protest that's already extremely emotional? A lot of people would argue that that just sort of inflames people. And certainly people were pissed, right? He got attacked. And whether or not he responded appropriately, obviously the jury, I think the thing that was worrying, obviously a lot of this is worrying to a lot of people, but the thing that's very worrying afterwards was the sort of lionization of Kyle Rittenhouse. It seems like we should all be able to agree that like the outcome was awful. People got killed, people got maimed. Like, we should all agree that we don't want that. And that broke down a little afterwards. People were really kind of sort of celebrating and even celebrating the killings. That was disturbing. We shouldn't celebrate that. Even if you think that he didn't do anything wrong, I think we should be able to agree that we don't want people getting killed in the streets. Seems pretty basic, but I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, I think we've entered such a polarized time that it's almost hard to say that anymore and have people be normal about it.
What's something that we haven't covered here that you'd want to talk about? You know a lot about the topic. We want to give you some time to just talk on that.
Oh, boy.
It's a free-for-all.
That's very open-ended.
Go on.
What is something I want to talk about?
It is extremely open-ended.
Sunshine, kittens, my great homebrew beer.
Oh, heck yeah. Oh, please.
But I think you probably want me to talk about extremism, right?
No, well, you can also talk about beer, please.
I mean, we could talk about homebrew beer.
I would love to learn.
Do you actually want to talk about homebrew beer? I do love brewing beer. I haven't done it recently very much, unfortunately, but it's a very zen thing. There's a lot of time sort of sitting around the pot stirring and perhaps having your own home brew while you do that. So I do highly recommend that, and it's a lot of fun. It's not as hard as it sounds. Yeah, so I like that. My favorite beer that I ever made is called an Eisbach, which is this like very sort of obscure German style where you have to like freeze the top of the water like over and over again and scoop it off, and it kind of like concentrates everything. It's very good. Anyway,
That sounds so cool.
it's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and
Yeah.
you have to have a lot of patience. But yeah, one thing that's been really disturbing is I have noticed a real acceleration of like anti-Semitism, Holocaust denial, and just like out and out racism, like not dog whistles, like just like these people are subhuman kind of like racism is really getting like it's just out in the open right now. And it's bringing people in who I think would not otherwise have been brought in without the kind of free for all social media ecosystem we have and politics that don't hold that accountable. That mix, I'm very concerned with what I'm seeing in the kind of dark corners of the web that I monitor for my job, because it's becoming very normalized for a lot of people, and that does not bode well for the future.
Yep.
Yeah, I had a lot of thoughts on that the past couple of days because I've been seeing even some things that were like Nazi slogans, like even trending on folks in the left. We've talked on this podcast before, like the fairly pro-Palestine stance. But like when I see people like using like the term like Zog on the left,
Oh, yeah,
I'm
that
like,
freaks
what
me
the
out.
fuck? Like because that's like it's a bridge much farther than the idea
That's
that like
Aryan
the
Nations.
side government. If you guys are not familiar with the term Zog.
Literally.
Yeah, and it's
Mhm.
yeah.
Nazi Jesus, as I think it's Dr. Amanda Rogers says. That's the stuff.
Well, the Aryan Nations was
Oh,
a church
geez.
as well, and they literally kind of believed in that. Yeah.
No, literally, yeah. The bloodline stuff, Christian identity, that's it.
Yeah, that's the Aryan Nations church, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, that's the strain of whatever.
It's still out there.
Yes, it is.
So what spaces are you seeing that crop up on more? Like, is this like Twitter's kind of running wild with it, or is it more like Telegram and kind of more isolated social networks?
Well, I used to have to really like lurk in Telegram and like make my way around, but now I just now I just open Twitter and it's there. It's like right there. Like, I mean, in a perverse way, it's made my job a lot easier.
Go back to the kittens. Go back to the kittens. Flee,
I know, right? Let's talk about beer.
Most of my time I use cats. Yeah, exactly. No, instead, you got to look at the Nazi Jesus shit.
I mean, it's right out there. It's probably not in most people's timelines because they don't have the fucked up algorithm that I have now. But you don't have to look very hard, and you're looking at accounts with 1 million followers. This isn't like Hitler 1357 blah 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 with 32 followers. It's dudes with hundreds of thousands, millions, and it's dark. It's really dark, and I think they are influencing people, especially young people who I'm not letting people off the hook, right? Like it's on you when you go believe that. But I do think there are people who otherwise would not be drawn to that who are getting pulled in. Yeah,
the algorithm is definitely fucking with people's heads.
Oh, yeah.
What was it? It'll come back to me for a second. Oh, sorry. I hate it when my thoughts escape. Somebody else go. I don't know. But yeah, no, like I just. Oh, that's what it was. Thank you. My brain finally blessed me. The brand new shooter. With I want to say it was. I don't know where it is exactly, but there literally was a shooting today
in Minneapolis
at a school.
Catholic school.
Yeah. and
Yeah.
Telegram Saints stuff. Like people are like
Oh, wow.
posting that this is like Telegram Saints shit, and I'm just like, okay, all right, I gotta look at that. I don't want to look at that. I don't want to. What are you doing to me? You know? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's hard. It's hard to do
I
this.
don't know. I don't know enough
Wait,
about
so,
about what happened today to really.
No, me
Yeah.
neither. Me neither. I'm just like I've barely seen
Got it.
anything, and I'm just like, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Yeah. So just one last thing about that, kind of going back to what you were saying before. Was there any were were there any obviously like not dog whistles, but like out and out Nazi concepts that people aren't familiar with, maybe that like you're seeing more often that are
Oh yes.
kind of advancing, or is this just straight up like the Holocaust
It's
didn't
but
happen
This is a
kind
good
of?
question.
yeah. So like there is a lot of straight up stuff that's just very blatant, but there's little codes. 14 words is one. That's an old neo-Nazi slogan from Idaho, unfortunately. That's one.
David Lane.
Eh,
The order.
Yeah, exactly. And there's things like you see like 1488 is a number that references Hitler. There's a thing that people keep posting called like the noticing, and that's this like
Yes,
coded
I've seen
language.
that.
Yeah, that's coded language for
Oh God,
for
yeah.
basically noticing that every problem is caused by Jews. And then I've seen it expanded
Yeah.
to also racial minorities as well. But anyway, so there are things where like if you're not in the rabbit hole, you might not know what they're talking about by design.
Yep. And also the aesthetics of fascism is another thing, like a huge thing when you see it online.
Oh yeah.
So, they've corrupted glitch art. I'm so angry
Awesome.
as an original glitch artist. So I'm pissed. Anyway,
I'm sorry for your loss. Yes.
thank you. I will reclaim it. They cannot take me. They cannot kill me in a
Awesome.
way that
All right.
matters. Anyway.
All right, so we're going to close off here. I want to say thank you so much for joining us for these 2 episodes. This has been, I love getting the chance to ask people a lot of questions, and this is one. There's a bunch of things that I need to Google now that I didn't know before this. I feel like sometimes when I'm writing these episodes, I'm like, okay, I've dove down a lot of the rabbit holes, and I never get to write about everything that I've read in preparation for anything, but. I feel like this one, like I came out with like a lot of things that I'm going to have to just go down another rabbit hole about. But is there anything you want to say that's, closing remarks, anything you want to plug, anything you'd like people to know in the world?
Also, do you have any recommended reads and listens on this topic? I'm going to add that to that because we didn't get to that question.
Well, you you mentioned Bundyville. Listen to both seasons of that. And also listen to Leah Satili's other podcast on the Oklahoma City bombing. I'm blanking on the name.
2 minutes past 9.
There you go.
Yeah, 2 minutes past 9.
Yes. I do not know her personally, so like I'm
No, me neither.
I'm plugging her stuff because it's just really good.
It really is. It's so good.
Yeah. So highly recommend that. Boy, let me think. I mean that I would say those podcasts are really great to listen to. There's actually a really good one. Actually, this is not like a secret or anything, but Will Be Wild I thought was really well done and gets into sort of how people get radicalized. It's called Will Be Wild, and it gets in.
Oh, that's a new one. I had never heard of that one.
Yeah, it's great. It's really well done. Recommend that. As far as a closing thought, I mean, I've given a fair number of talks now on extremism, and one thing I do like to close with after all this grim shit is people have agency still. We still like. Yes. We're in a democracy. There are cracks, big ones, big and biglier, but you have agency, right? Like if you don't like what's happening, we still get to vote right now. Don't take that for granted. And like we have participatory democracy. Just because things are pretty crazy doesn't mean that you just throw your hands up. So I'd say whatever you believe right now, you shouldn't throw your hands up. Yeah, because I think that is something, understandably, like some people are kind of like, oh God, like I just want to bury my head in the sand.
Yeah.
Don't do
Yeah.
that.
It's painful, like especially recently. Yeah. Yeah. There's a mindset that you have to get into, like
Yeah.
when authoritarianism, totalitarianism, like starts coming down. I've read a lot about it, and it's just you have to. It's kind of like you have to go inside yourself in order to free yourself, and it's weird. I have yet to read too much about it enough, but like it was a few years ago. But yeah, worth brushing up on if you can find that kind of a thing. If you're feeling like crap recently, so.
Hey, and yeah, thank you so much for being there. I love that specific last thought. I love talking about agency. That's important as hell to us, important as hell to you, and important as hell to the world. So thank you so much. Obviously, again, check out Heath's podcast, Howl. Check out Extremely American with the Boise State Public Radio. That's wherever you can get podcasts, both of those. Deeply recommend his work. And, if you need those links, just find them right in the episode. And thank you so much. And to the audience, we will see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.